The situation around Venezuela is escalating rapidly, and this is no longer just a local conflict in Latin America, but a potential trigger for global geopolitical realignment. In recent days, authoritative sources in Washington reported on an emergency meeting at the Pentagon, attended by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and the entire command staff of key generals. The formal reason was an attack by the Venezuelan Coast Guard on a boat carrying American military personnel in the territorial waters of the Caribbean. According to insiders, the attack was demonstrative in nature. Venezuelan boats did not open fire, but used powerful water cannons to spray the hull of the American vessel, forcing it to retreat. From the perspective of military experts, this looked more like a psychological operation designed to show that Caracas is ready for confrontation, but has not yet crossed the red line of direct armed conflict. However, Donald Trump's reaction turned out to be extremely harsh. According to White House sources, the president took this incident as a personal insult and already stated in a closed meeting that his patience had run out. Maduro has gone too far, and now we will finish the job, an insider close to his circle quoted Trump as saying. The Washington Post, citing defense officials, writes that in the coming days, a new plan of action against Nicolas Maduro's government will be approved. It includes the deployment of a large naval group off the coast of Venezuela and the possible implementation of blockade operations. According to the Financial Times, American aircraft carrier strike groups have already left Florida ports and are moving toward the Caribbean. They are accompanied by Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, cruisers equipped with the Aegis system, and supply ships. Such a concentration of forces leaves no doubt. Washington is preparing for a military scenario. A number of military analysts point out that Caracas's moves were calculated in advance. Local media controlled by Maduro's regime immediately broadcast footage of the successful repulsion of U.S. aggression, while social media channels linked to Venezuelan intelligence spread claims that American forces allegedly fled in haste. However, experts see this as a propaganda play. In reality, according to CNN sources, the actions of the Venezuelan Coast Guard looked like a childish prank compared to the power of the U.S. Navy. But this very showmanship was the trigger that enraged Trump. Bloomberg reports that the situation is being discussed not only in military circles, but also at the level of major oil corporations. Venezuela remains one of the key players in the oil market, and any U.S. intervention could cause a spike in energy prices. Washington understands this, and according to State Department sources, the Pentagon is considering a quick and targeted operation to minimize economic fallout. Meanwhile, a diplomatic game is unfolding in Latin America. According to Reuters, the governments of Brazil and Colombia have already warned the U.S. about the risk of destabilizing the region if military action begins. However, Trump's inner circle believes that now is the most favorable moment. Venezuela's economy is in deep crisis. Its military is weakened by sanctions and internal conflicts, and Maduro's international support is limited to Moscow, Beijing, and Tehran. Insiders in NATO claim that behind the scenes, the alliance is already discussing the possibility of providing intelligence and technical support to the U.S., although officially, European leaders prefer to remain silent. According to Politico, London has been especially active, viewing participation in the operation as a chance to strengthen its position in the post-Brexit period. Moscow's reaction deserves special attention. Russian media are already calling the developments a new U.S. aggression against a sovereign state, while the Russian Foreign Ministry has declared that any military intervention will lead to unpredictable consequences. However, military experts interviewed by the Wall Street Journal believe that Russia does not have the resources for direct intervention and will limit itself to supplying weapons and intelligence to Venezuela. Inside the White House, rhetoric is intensifying that the Maduro regime is a threat to democracy in the Western Hemisphere, while media outlets close to the Republican Party are already calling to put an end to the dictator once and for all. According to analysts from the Council on Foreign Relations, the U.S. is on the verge of launching a full-scale military operation in Latin America for the first time in decades. And although officially it is only described as a pressure plan, the reality is that any wrong step could lead to direct confrontation. Thus, the picture is alarming. The provocative attack by the Venezuelan Coast Guard, Trump's harsh reaction, the emergency Pentagon meeting, the fleet moving toward Caracas, and the silent tension among allies. All of this indicates that the situation has entered a critical phase, and the coming days may be decisive not only for Venezuela, but for the entire Western Hemisphere. At the same time, Washington is paying special attention to possible scenarios for a military operation. According to NBC sources, the Pentagon is already considering 3 options. The first is a limited naval blockade of Venezuela's key oil ports, which would cut off oil and gas exports, depriving Maduro's regime of its main source of hard currency. The second scenario involves targeted strikes on military infrastructure, airfields, weapons depots, and communication centers. The third, the toughest, includes a landing operation involving U.S. Marines and Special Forces. According to analysts at the Rand Corporation, this option is considered a last resort, but the fact that it is being discussed shows how seriously the Pentagon views the situation. Venezuela's forces, according to Jane's Defense Weekly, are limited. The Navy is in decline. A significant part of the Air Force is grounded due to a lack of spare parts and sanctions, and the Army suffers from poor discipline and supply shortages. However, Caracas still has an asymmetric tool, an extensive network of paramilitary groups and armed militias capable of waging guerrilla warfare in cities and jungles. This is precisely the factor Maduro is counting on, expecting that an invasion would turn into a prolonged occupation for the U.S. with colossal costs. The information war is also in full swing. CNN and Fox News in the U.S. present the situation as a necessity to restore order in the region, while RT and China's Xinhua news agency describe it as Trump's colonial policy. The Financial Times notes that the global media space is turning into a battlefield of narratives, where every photo and every video is used to shape the desired picture. The personal factor occupies a special place. According to his closest advisors, Donald Trump sees this operation not only as a geopolitical challenge, but also as an opportunity to reinforce his image as a strong leader in the eyes of the American voter. His sharp statements, tough rhetoric, and constant promises to end the dictatorship fit into his campaign strategy. Nicolas Maduro, on the other hand, builds the image of a fighter against imperialism, appearing on television in a military cap and surrounding himself with loyal generals. For him, it is a matter of survival. Conceding to the U.S. would mean the end of his power, and likely, personal tragedy. According to The Economist, it is precisely this clash of personal ambitions between the two leaders that turns the crisis into an unpredictable game. Neither is willing to back down, and both use the confrontation for internal mobilization. Yet between them lies reality. Hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans living amid a humanitarian catastrophe and a global energy system that depends on every barrel of oil. The result is a situation in which even the smallest move, another Coast Guard attack, a sharp statement from Trump, or an unexpected incident at sea, could ignite a major fire. And although officials in Washington claim that this is only a pressure plan, the movement of the fleet, diplomatic warnings, and growing market panic suggest otherwise. The world is once again on the brink of a new hot war in the Western Hemisphere.